Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5:44, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Now let's be real. That is one of the hardest teachings in the entire Bible. It goes against everything in human nature. When someone hurts us, our instinct is to protect ourselves, maybe even strike back. The last thing we want to do is bless them in prayer. And yet, Jesus didn't just say this to sound holy. He meant it. So today, we're going to slow down and ask the question, does praying for our enemies actually work? Or is it just a nice idea we say in the congregation? Let's break this down together. Enemies come in all forms. Sometimes it's global conflicts, like the wars we see on the news. Other times, it's deeply personal. A betrayal by a friend, a wound from family, or a harsh word from someone we trusted. And here's the truth. When Jesus asked us to pray for enemies, He's not ignoring the pain they caused. He's inviting us to bring that pain into His presence. But that's why it feels impossible. Prayer is intimate. And why would we want to open our hearts and speak the name of the person who wounded us the most? In the Israeli-Palestinian conflict I explore in my book, each side has generations of pain. Families who have lost loved ones. Communities who live under fear. How do you pray for someone you see as the enemy? It feels impossible until we realize Jesus Himself walked this road. On the stake, bleeding and abandoned, He prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." If Jesus could pray for His executioners in His moment of suffering, then maybe, we can take one small step in that same direction. Here's the first shift. Praying for enemies doesn't always change them right away. It changes us. I've noticed something when I pray for someone I'm angry with. My words start out rough, sometimes even sarcastic. But over time, something softens. My heart doesn't stay in the same place. That's because prayer is more than talking. It's surrender. And when we surrender, God works on us. Jesus knew this. That's why He told us to pray for enemies, because it keeps us from being consumed by bitterness. Paul wrote in Romans 12:21, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Prayer is one way we overcome. It doesn't erase the wrong done to us, but it stops that wrong from defining us. Let me ask you a question. Who is someone in your life that, honestly, you struggle to forgive? What if your first prayer wasn't about them changing, but about God protecting your heart from hate? That's where freedom begins. But prayer doesn't just transform us. It can also transform our enemies. Think about Saul of Tarsus. He was violent. He hunted Christians. He destroyed families. He was the enemy. And yet, after his encounter with Jesus, he became Paul, the greatest missionary of the early congregation. Do you think the congregation was praying for him? I believe so. And God answered those prayers in ways they never imagined. When we pray for enemies, we're not excusing their actions. We're inviting God to do what we cannot, to convict hearts, to dismantle hate, to bring justice in His way, and sometimes we won't see results right away. But prayer is never wasted. The God who hears us in secret is always at work in ways we can't see. That's true in the Middle East. It's true in broken families. It's true in congregation divided by offense. Prayer opens the door for God's Spirit to move where we have no power. Let's get practical, because if we leave this as just a nice idea, it won't change anything. Here are 4 ways you can start praying for your enemies. Start with honesty. Tell God how you really feel. Don't sugarcoat it. Pour it out. Speak their name, even if you can't say much else. Naming them in prayer is the first act of surrender. Pray for God's mercy. Not that their wrongs are ignored, but that God softens their hearts and opens their eyes. Pray for your release. Ask God to free you from anger's grip so your spirit isn't chained to the offense. And here's the fifth one. Repeat. Prayer for enemies is rarely a one-time act. It's a process. Every time you choose to pray, even though gritted teeth, you are loosening the enemy's hold on your heart. So does praying for enemies really work? Yes, because it changes us. It can change them. And it always brings God's presence into places that desperately need His light. The world tells us to fight fire with fire, but Jesus says to fight fire with prayer, to overcome hate with love, to meet violence with peace. And maybe, just maybe, prayer is the first seed of peace that grows into reconciliation. That's the heartbeat of my book, Seeking Peace: Biblical Solutions to the Israeli and Palestinian Conflict. If you want to dive deeper, the link is in the description. Before you click away, I'd love to hear from you. Who's one person you'll commit to praying for this week, even if it's hard? Drop their initials in the comments. Let's encourage one another on this journey. And don't forget to subscribe to Voices on My Book for more conversations on faith, conflict, and peace. Until next time, keep praying, even when it feels impossible. Because with God, nothing is wasted. Until next time.